Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Wednesday morning, December the 4th. We have a strengthening low pressure system that will have a big impact on the Great Lakes to Mid-Atlantic region, the Northeast U.S. from later today into the day on Friday. That impact will include some accumulating snow, especially across the interior, higher elevation locations of the northeastern states. Some powerful wind gusts, easily reaching 50 miles per hour or so. These could be potentially damaging wind gusts as well, possibly bringing down some tree limbs or even some small trees during this upcoming weather event. All of this will be followed by another Arctic air outbreak for the day on Thursday night into the day on Friday. That will certainly result in the lowest wind chill values of the season so far. Let's kind of decipher this whole storm system over the next several minutes here by using some of the forecast models from the overnight runs. First of all, we're looking here at the low-level winds, the 850 millibar winds. That's a couple thousand feet above the surface, but it's important in this particular scenario because I believe some of those very, very strong winds just a couple thousand feet off the surface will make their way down to the surface level later on tomorrow into tomorrow night. As we begin the day here on Wednesday, we have a couple areas of perhaps you could call them low-level jet streaks here, again at the 850 millibar level. Now, we'll move forward here. Here we go into the midday hours. Notice, first of all, kind of a strengthening here of the low-level jet from a southwesterly direction. This is all out ahead of that cold frontal system, which at this particular time could be somewhere in this area, but this is basically a west to southwesterly flow that will be increasing later today and especially tonight into the Mid-Atlantic region, into the northeastern states here. So strong winds, the bottom line here, strong winds on the front side of this advancing strong cold front. Let's continue to move forward here. We go into the evening hours, then into the overnight hours. Still some very strong winds. You'll hear the winds gusting excuse me, later on tonight in the Mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S., and that'll be from a southwesterly direction out ahead of the strong cold front. Now, once we get into the day on Thursday, that cold front will start to barrel its way across the I-95 corridor region right during the early morning hours. Anytime from, let's say, 5 a.m. to 10 a.m., this cold front will come crashing through D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, and it very likely will not go unnoticed. It will bring about that wind shift, first of all, from a southwesterly direction to a northwesterly direction. Winds will then potentially gust past 50 miles per hour or so during the bulk of the day on Thursday and into Thursday night. And again, this can produce some damage to some trees, maybe some power outages as well. We'll talk about the precipitation more so in a couple of minutes, but certainly the frontal passage itself could feature some heavier snow showers or even some snow squalls, even into the I-95 corridor region. Now let's go a little bit farther out in time here. Again, this is early tomorrow morning. Then we go into the midday and finally the evening hours, and still seeing some high winds here at the 850 millibar level early tomorrow night. This is the forecast map for 7 p.m. tomorrow night. And this will be from a northwesterly direction. Bottom line here is you can see wind gusts of 50 miles per hour or so continue into the early evening hours on Thursday. So really anytime from early morning to early evening, there can be those wind gusts of 50 miles per hour or more throughout the Mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S. And again, that could result in some scattered power outages. Now let's walk through the 850 millibar temperature anomalies, and we have some very cold air hanging on along the eastern third of the nation early this morning. In fact, some of the lowest temperatures so far this season in some of those suburban areas, let's say, for example, to the west of D.C., all the way down to 16 degrees this morning, Culpeper, 18 degrees, Gaithersburg, Maryland, to the north of the D.C. metro region. Some very, very cold air hanging on early this morning. And that's important because even though the snow amounts later on tonight into the early morning hours will not be significant by any means, the ground has been quite cold. It's been going through this extended cold stretch here, so snow can quickly cause some slippery road conditions early tomorrow in places like DC, Philadelphia, New York City. In other words, even a dusting of snow can produce some quickly deteriorating road conditions, again, because the ground has been so cold in recent days, again, down into the teens in many suburban locations early this morning. Now, we'll go through the day today, and temperatures will relax a little bit in the Mid-Atlantic region, out ahead of that cold front with those southwesterly winds, but still well below normal for this time of the year. And here comes that next Arctic blast by early tomorrow morning, and at this particular time, early tomorrow, that frontal system will be barreling across the I-95 corridor region in this direction, basically west to east. And Arctic cold will follow throughout the bulk of the day on Thursday, and Thursday night and Friday will be very, very cold time period indeed. Here we are on Friday. Again, this will be accompanied by very strong winds up to 50 miles per hour or so during the day tomorrow into tomorrow night. Continued windy conditions on Friday, all of which will produce the lowest wind chill values of the season so far. Now, we'll go quickly into the upcoming weekend. Stays very cold on Saturday, but then certainly turns milder by the second half of the weekend in the Mid-Atlantic region. This is a Sunday morning forecast map, and we'll see temperatures we haven't seen in a while on Sunday afternoon, and then especially on Monday, probably back up into the 50s in the I-95 corridor region on Monday with some rain in the forecast. Now, let's walk through the surface forecast maps from last night's GFS model run at 0Z. Now, the GFS is what we call a synoptic scale model. It's basically a larger scale model. At the end of this video discussion, I want to go through a mesoscale model that it can be quite helpful in this kind of a scenario. We will have small scale bursts of snow, otherwise known as some snow squalls, on late tonight into the early morning hours. So first we'll start off with this kind of broad scale model, the GFS, and then we'll take a look at the NAM model, a high resolution version of that model, see if we can pinpoint the possibility of snow squalls. First of all, notice the pressure here, 994 millibars. Let me just kind of quickly go through this, and then we'll backtrack to the beginning. This is as we begin the day here on Wednesday. A lot of isobars. Again, we mentioned on yesterday's last couple of video discussions that isobars represent lines of equal pressure. The more the lines here, the tighter the pressure gradient, the stronger the winds. In this particular time period here, this represents southwesterly flow out ahead of that cold frontal system. By the way, the front at this particular time, right in this area, back here, we're talking about north to northwest flow. Again, winds blow counterclockwise around low pressure areas. So strong winds both out ahead of the system and especially behind that cold frontal system. Now, let's move forward. I pointed out that 995 millibar. I'm just going to go quickly through this time period all the way into the early morning hours on Friday. This is 48 hours out from Wednesday morning to Friday morning. Look at that, 969 low. That intensifies quite dramatically over the next 48 hours. Again, starting off here on a Wednesday morning, 994 ends up as a 969 low on early Friday. That tells you a couple of things. First of all, that pressure gradient will continue to steepen, and the winds will intensify markedly on Thursday and Thursday night, and strong winds will continue throughout the northeastern states on Friday as well, with that 969 low on Friday morning over the Canadian Maritime provinces. Now, let's move forward a little bit and point out a couple other factors here. First of all, notice here by this evening, almost all of the precipitation associated with this storm system is in the form of snow. That's certainly kind of unusual for this time of the year. Early December, we have an unusual cold spell here in the northeastern states, and to see all snow even out ahead of that frontal system, for the most part, a little bit of green showing up here, but for the most part in the form of snow, as we go into the evening hours. Then we'll go into the overnight hours. Certainly some coastal sections will see some rain showers, but even there, along coastal sections, there will be some snowflakes mixed in. Now, again, we're not expecting a heavy precipitation event here. In fact, in D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, it'll absolutely be a minor precipitation event, but the ground is so cold that any snow that falls can quickly cause the roads to become slippery. I'm talking about in the late overnight hours, early morning hours on Thursday, probably 4 or 5 a.m. to about 10 or 11 a.m. That's the time period to be concerned about. D.C., Philadelphia, New York City will go out a little bit farther in time. And here we go with that frontal system by tomorrow morning. By this time, this is 7 a.m. forecast map. You're looking at the front right around over the I-95 corridor region. Again, that time period, let's say 5 a.m. to 10 a.m., that's the time period of concern. And again, this front will go through and it'll be noticed because the winds will shift from a southwesterly direction to a northwesterly direction, and they'll pick up in intensity. They will be strong out ahead of the front, but even stronger behind the front from a northwesterly direction. Just take a look at this isobar pattern here. This is some scary looking stuff here, and it could cause some power outages in anywhere, eastern Great Lakes, mid-Atlantic, northeast U.S. later tomorrow into tomorrow night. Now notice here, 993 millibar low as of tomorrow morning. So from this point on, it intensifies dramatically in a 24-hour period from 993 to 969 by the time we get to Friday morning. Now let's push ahead here and go a little bit farther in time. By this time, midday on Thursday, that front is off the coast. Certainly still some snow showers, especially just downstream of the Great Lakes. Some snow bands. We have a continuation of lake effect type snows here downstream of Lake Erie, for example, Lake Ontario and Huron as examples. Again, very, very tight pressure gradient between this still intensifying low right here and this strong high pressure area. And the difference in pressure, 1035 low, and at this time at 989 and deepening, at 1035 high and a 989 low that's still deepening on its way to 969. This will produce some very, very strong northwesterly winds throughout the northeastern quadrant of the nation. Go out a little bit farther in time here into the evening hours, and again, continuation of the, we looked at the 850 millibar winds, still very strong at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. Tells me there still could be 50 mile per hour wind gusts tomorrow evening in the I-95 corridor region throughout the northeastern states. Still intensifying low 981 by the time we get to late tomorrow night, and finally Friday morning 969 low out here, 1032 high over the Tennessee Valley. You still have very strong winds throughout the day on Friday. And again, this system will result in the lowest wind chill values of the season so far throughout the northeastern states. It all relaxes over the weekend, and by the time we get to Sunday, there'll be a big difference in temperatures throughout the northeastern states here, probably reaching 40 plus degrees in places like DC, Philadelphia, New York City. That hasn't been really reached in quite a while. And then some of this moisture down in the south central states will work its way into the east on Monday in the form of rain. Now, I promised we'd run through, to wrap up, high resolution model here. Again, higher resolution models in this kind of a scenario can be quite useful, quite helpful in picking out small scale features. In this particular case, we're looking at the possibility of some snow squalls. These are small areas of heavier snow bursts. Again, I expect to see that with this frontal passage late tonight, early tomorrow morning. So we'll walk through. This is on an hourly basis, going through the early morning hours here, and we're kind of focused in on the eastern Great Lakes, the mid-Atlantic, the northeast U.S., into the midday hours. Now, into the evening hours right here, and starting to see some snow now showing up here out ahead of that strong frontal system. And then we start to see some banding here. Notice some of these bands starting to set up here. Some of that's lake effect related, but again, it's along that frontal system. Now, we go into the overnight hours. This is midnight, 1 a.m., and still not much going on here at this particular time. But here we go By the time we get into the early morning hours, this is about 5 a.m. forecast map. Notice these little heavier looking bands. Indeed, those are heavier snow showers. Maybe even can call those snow squalls. This is 5 a.m. going out a little farther in time. Right here, right along that cold frontal system, about 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, potential for a snow squall closing in the D.C. metro area. The northwestern suburbs of Philly will go out another hour. And here we go, right with that frontal system. This is, again, a potential heavier snow shower or even a snow squall right during that morning commute. We're talking 6, 7 a.m. or so. And again, the ground is so cold that any kind of a snowburst here can quickly cause some slippery conditions. So be on the lookout for that. Early tomorrow in the I-95 corridor region. We'll go out a little farther in time, and that works its way to the coast by the mid-morning hours. And these thickness lines here, which represent can be correlated to temperatures, are dropping through the day as the colder Arctic air moves in. Those 516 thickness cutting across central Pennsylvania by midday, and this is all going to be associated with 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts, leading to the lowest wind chill values of the season so far. Those high temperatures, the actual temperatures, will likely be reached early in the day in places like D.C. and Philadelphia, maybe midday in New York City, and drop throughout the afternoon. So a big impact from this strong and strengthening low-pressure system on Thursday, ranging from powerful and potentially damaging wind gusts of 50 miles per hour or more, some snow shower, maybe even some snow squall activity that can produce some small accumulations, but even small accumulations can cause a deterioration, a slippery road condition scenario early Thursday. We're talking in the 5 to 10 a.m. time period, D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, and all of this will be followed by more Arctic cold for later tomorrow night, and during the day on Friday. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.